Okay, here we are again. Thank you again for following along. And here we go. So, we're going to backtrack a little bit. The last video, I was explaining how I was taking the homeless back to the church from the streets, and how they had done nothing wrong. They were actually helping shovel the walkways, cleaning up the church, never leaving anything. We actually were waking up at 6 a.m. and leaving by 6:30 a.m. every morning so that we wouldn't be caught. And even after we were caught and allowed to be there by the priest, we were still doing this to respect the property. And honestly, there was not one time where disrespect happened. There was not one time where a mess was left. There was not one time where anything was broken or stolen. Not once. But anyways, we'll get back to backtracking. So, let's backtrack a little bit. Recently, I was asked by the New York Times if there was anybody interesting I had met. And I asked, homeless? Any interesting homeless people? Is that what you mean? And they said, yeah. Was there anybody interesting? Do you remember their name? And immediately, I went with Wolf. Wolf, I hope you see this, man. Love you, dude. And, I had really gotten to feel loved by Wolf and Carrie, his street wife. And they had a dog, which I love animals, so it was a big blessing to be able to be near them and to be loved on by the animal and get to just talk about life with them. Now, Wolf was not a believer in Christ by word, but he was by action. And he had actually studied the Bible at that point much more than myself and could reflect on it and was open to talking about his reflections on it, even though he didn't believe in it. He had experienced things with the church, I believe, where the church made him reject Christ. It wasn't the Bible per se that made him reject Christ, but it was the actions of the people in the church that made him reject Christ. And I understood that, even without him saying that. And so I never questioned him. I never pushed him. But we had some wonderful discussions. And this one time we're sitting there discussing life, just taking in life, watching the people walk by, eating, helping those around us in the little ways that we could, and standing up when the mall cops or mall security would come by, standing before they told us to, and sitting back down as soon as they left. anyways, so we were sitting, and this man, one of our friends that we loved, come running up to us, and he goes, "You guys, do any of you have an extra coat? This kid, he just got off the bus from Tennessee, and he's shivering. I know it's not really that cold, but he's from Arkansas, and he's not used to this 50 degrees. And so I go, yeah, I got 3 jackets, but they're all at the church, and it's going to take me quite a while to get there and back. And we all shook our heads, knowing that wouldn't work, because in the homeless world, in the homeless spectrum, and in the homeless realm, in 2 hours, people die. In 2 hours, people are not going to be where they were when you left them. And they don't have phones to get a hold of them to say, hey, where are you? I got that coat now. Let's meet up. There's no way to establish those lines of communication to make things happen. And so for the homeless, it's right now or never. Basically always. And so what did Wolf do? Right then he stood up and he took off his leather coat. And this wasn't just any leather coat. This leather coat was pristine. This leather coat was amazing. This leather coat was something he had never taken off in my sight ever before. This leather coat was something that I had always seen him wearing. No matter how warm it was out, he would wear it. I suspected that this leather coat was his most prized possession, besides his wife and dog, his most prized material possession, period. That it was something that he had planned on wearing for the rest of his life, had he had the opportunity. And to see him take off his leather coat so quickly, with such angst, I think that's the right word, with such force, with such meaning, with such power, with such love and heart behind his actions, was mind-shattering to me. It was, again, a testimony to me of how some of these people, most of these people, at certain points in their life, while homeless, were living out the calling of Christ better than I was able to. I reflected on this right then and there, and I thought to myself, this is amazing. I'm not able to give away my coat. I didn't stand up and take off my coat that I was wearing to give to him, to give to somebody who I had never met, like Wolf did. I was going to go and grab one of my extra coats from the church. I was willing to do that. I wasn't willing at that point to take off my coat that I was wearing to give to him. I wasn't willing to be cold for the next however long. I could have just been cold a little bit and taken the bus home and got a coat and come back, but I wasn't willing. I didn't think of it. It wasn't in my perspective mind frame to do that, but it was in Wolf's. He was amazing. He is amazing, I'm sure, if he's still around with us to this day. And it changed me. It changed my heart. It transformed me. Immediately, I prayed and I asked God. I broke down and I prayed silently in my closet, in the open, in the public, without telling anybody. I asked God, I said, Lord, how do I help these people? These people are more amazing than me. These people are doing your commandments without even believing in you, with denying you. They're still following your commandments. Not always, not in every respect, but in some, much more powerful than what I am able. How can I help these people, God? And in prayer, I received back the understanding that I was a white middle-class suburban boy from Minnesota who had never seen the homeless before, had never spoken to the homeless before, who couldn't even see the homeless on the streets of 16th Street Mall years before, when I used to go there every day to smoke a blunt and play piano on my motorcycle. Who knows how many times I had been asked for change and just walked by them because they weren't in my perspective mind frame. I literally couldn't even see them. But I wanted to know what I needed to do to help them, and I was willing to do anything because of the love that I was experiencing through them and through seeing them do things that I had read about I was supposed to do in the Bible. And I understood that, being that middle-class white suburban boy from Minnesota, that I had no way to understand them or their experiences or how to help them. And so it came to me that I would have to learn through experience what it was like to be homeless, that I would have to be homeless myself in order to understand how to help them. And that made complete sense to me. That was logical. That was the most logical, rational, absolute, positive understanding that could have come to me, period, at that point. And so I took it, and I believed it, and I believed in it. And so that is us going back to the experience which led to me immediately giving that church key back to the priest when he stopped me from being able to take in the homeless following that I was able to be a part of, that God was creating at that point, the homeless following of Christ. The homeless following of Christ, of believers who didn't believe by word, who actually denied Christ by word, but were following him in heart, by following him as Gentiles who had, in their own ways, in their own ability to understand through their own experiences, God's laws that were being written in their hearts for them to follow. And so much, much, much later on, I would read that verse in the Bible that says that same thing, that those people actually are justified by Christ and actually are seen as sons of God. And then much later, it hit me because of those things that I was seeing and those experiences that I lived. But anyways, that's fast forwarding quite a bit, and this video is getting long enough for us to end it. So we will. Peace be with you, and hope you're having a good one. If you're not, hit me up, 3034-LOVE. Text me, call me. If I don't answer, text me. Let me know what's going on, how I can be there for you. I might not have anything to give except for words of encouragement, but I'm happy to give them if I can. So anyways, thank you. Thanks for being here, and we'll see where this goes from here. I don't know. I don't know the next story that I have to tell about my testimony and how I've come to Christ and how I became an apostle at the household of God. Anyways, thank you. Bye-bye.